Hello, my name is Keith, aka LoLByTheNumbers, and welcome to another 2014 League of Legends World Championship video analysis. Once again, this is a video analysis, it is not a shoutcast. I will be providing spoilers throughout the match. I am assuming that you have watched the video, don't care, or already know who has won. I will be focusing primarily on macro level strategy, team compositions, win conditions, and how teams should do and don't pull them off throughout the game. There'll be a lot of talk about why things went wrong, what teams could have done to pull out the win instead of the loss. Once again, a lot of macro level strategy. For this matchup, we have TSM versus SK Gaming. This is their first match in group stages. And without further ado, let's get into picks and bans. Team Solo Mid, like most teams, are going to focus their bans onto Freddy in the top lane. We see Nidalee Kale banned. We'll have a third top lane ban coming out in Aatrox, Freddy being one of the only people who play Aatrox. On SK Gaming's side, we have Lulu banned out. For Dyrus, this is a target ban towards TSM's protect the ADC comps that they like to run, as well as Zed and Syndra focusing on their mid laner. This actually leaves up a lot of other champions. We see Alistar being picked up by TSM. Very strong, often banned. He's a real big bully. SK Gaming now have the choice. We still see the full trifecta of top laners up throughout the rest of the world. Maokai, Rumble, and Rise. However, they're not going to pick him up for the top lane. We'll get to that next. So they'll end up picking up Mundo. It's a great pick against Alistar. And unfortunately, though SK Freddy plays great this match, it's the other lanes that really bring SK to the loss here. For SK's first round of picks, they picked Lucian Kha'Zix. I'm not necessarily sure why they're opting into Kha'Zix instead of Lee Sin. I feel Lee Sin would have been a better pick. He's just all around strong. Plus, it would have denied some of the Yasuo synergy that we see coming up. Not that SK Gaming could have predicted it at this point, but still, it's a strong pick. Unless you have an actual other plan, Lee Sin would be better, I feel. Lucian is a great pickup. We see him come throughout Worlds, especially later on in the second group stage and in the brackets. Huge lane bully, lots of potential. He's a dominating ADC in the World Championship. On Team Solo Mid side, we see Nami coming in, very generic support, very strong. Doesn't end up being one of the stronger ones later on in Worlds, but she still has her place. Great at disengage. On top, she provides another knock-up for Yasuo. And then SK's side, on their second round, we see Sona, we see Mundo coming in. SK Gaming's holding on to their mid lane pick. They want to counter. Unfortunately for them, if they really should have seen this Yasuo pick coming. We know it's a strong pick in Worlds. We know Bergerson loves to play it. And we already see 3 knockups on Team Solo Mid's side. Alistar, amazing synergy with Lee Sin, and Nami as well to provide more of a long-range knockup. The Mundo pick by SK is very good. He does exceptionally well against Alistar and actually is one of the few champions who will win the lane. He builds a good amount of health regen, goes into the match with health regen runes, gets an early Giants built. Alistar is unable to provide the DPS necessary to take out Mundo, and Mundo just regens during the downtime after Alistar gets off his headbutts and whatnot. He also is tanky enough to survive through Alistar's burst with his headbutt pulverize, with the Trinity Force combo, and then turn around and provide higher sustained damage while Alistar's skills are down. For the final picks on TSM, we see Yasuo, Tristana coming in. These are just very solid picks. Tristana being one of Wild Turtle's favorite champions. Not necessarily too strong against Lucian, really should lose out the lane. But then we also see Yasuo coming in, and Yasuo is the linchpin, the nail in the coffin in this pick and ban phase. We now have Yasuo on one of North America's best mid laners, who has synergy from every other champion. There's AoE knockup on Alistar. There's line knockup on Lee Sin. We have Yasuo's own knockup. We have Tidal Wave knockup and Bubble from Nami, as well as Tristana's ultimate. There is synergy for Yasuo in every lane. Very, very deadly for SK. I really wish they would have seen this coming, taken Yasuo for themselves just to deny it. If they wouldn't have had the synergy, probably not the best champion pick for their side with their team composition and strategy. However, it's really, really rough to have let TSM have it in this situation. The final pickup of Orianna is good. I actually think Orianna's pretty decent against Yasuo. It's difficult, but if you play it right, you can deny him any opportunities for kills, you can deny him farm, you can fast push and keep him into turrets. Orianna has the tools to deal with them. The other champion that I really like against Yasuo is Ziggs, because Ziggs kind of ignores Yasuo. He throws out all his skills, he blows up the creep waves, he has enough range to stay far away and prevent Yasuo dashes. If Yasuo tries to get in, he can throw down his satchel charge, knock him back, create enough distance that Yasuo can't get the dash onto Ziggs. It's another champion I really like, and I think would have been decent in this composition as well. However, Orianna's fine, and I like her. Talking about team compositions and strategies, SK is really going for scaling here. They have no AP damage coming from TSM side, and this is really where SK has the ability to shine. All of TSM is running AD. You know, we see Alistar goes Trinity Force, Static Shiv, and then starts getting tanky. We have the AD mid laner. We have Nami, who is not a high AP damage support. SK just need to get armor in this matchup. They'll win. Mundo running Sunfire Cape, Warmog, Stormmail, Randuin's Omen will be pretty much unstoppable. Can run into TSM's team all by himself and go where he pleases. So SK need to scale up to this point. Once Mundo gets scaling, he can tank out TSM's team. Kha'Zix can sit in the back, get his scale with his damage, go for the resets. Orianna can get into her late game high damage potential. Huge synergy by throwing her ball onto Mundo, letting him run in, get the shockwave, get the dissonance, chunk somebody for 2/3 or more of their health. We all know late game Oriannas are very scary. The flip side to this is Tristana and Yasuo are good late game champions as well, but this is countered by the fact that Mundo can build like 400 armor. Lucian and Sona. Lucian is good throughout the whole game. Even though he doesn't scale as hard as Tristana, he's still relevant in the late game. Sona will outscale Nami as well. In the 5v5 fight, Sona is extremely strong, especially if you're able to get a little bit of AP on her, get a chalice so she can spam. She has huge potential in these late game team fights. As SK go through the mid game, they really need to recognize that they have somewhat of a disengage comp. They don't want to fight TSM early on. They want to draw this game out. Use Sona, Lucian, Kha'Zix, and Orianna to wave clear, play turret defense. They really need to just defend their turrets and play turret defense until about 25-30 minutes when Mundo gets his second armor item, when Orianna's about to get her death cap. That would be a great point for them to start turning the fights in their favor. They just need to make sure they haven't fallen too far behind by this point. Here we're going to see the first gank onto Orianna. She's not quite using her ball right, and I'll get into that later. And especially the way that the creep manipulation is, it gives Yasuo an easy way to get into that. He could have even got a third dash on a creep to gain more distance. But I'll get back into that later. So SK's win condition is delay, play turret defense, scale up into the 25-30 minute mark with a double armor items. Get an early Zhonya's on Orianna, potentially pick up an armor item on Kha'Zix as well. Just wait for your armor to basically win the game for you, and that's just the problem with the AD compositions. They'll facilitate this by drawing out the laning phase, use the high power of Lucian Sona in the bottom lane to bully out Tristana, play safe with Orianna, and just farm. SK really just need to play safe because Mundo's in no danger up top, and that's what they're waiting for. As for TSM's strategy, their team composition is easily noted as a Yasuo composition. There is everything going for him right from the start. Any number of champions can provide him with the knockup synergy. Alistar can go in with the frontline tank, get a massive knockup. Yasuo goes in. Alistar's already being the one taking all of the focus. It's really just, it's on TSM to make the moves. They have to make the plays, and it just revolves around Yasuo, really. So what TSM's strategy should be, win the lane phase if you can. We do see Yasuo is able to do that. Shouldn't happen, but he plays really well. Orianna makes a couple mistakes. But get to level 6. At level 6 is where things turn on for TSM. Once Yasuo has level 6, once Alistar has level 6, once Lee Sin has level 6, they can really turn this game on its head. Focus on mid lane, get Yasuo farmed. Have Lee Sin go in for flanks against Orianna. Have Alistar go in for flanks against Orianna. If you want to use teleport, you can put a ward into SK's jungle, preferably by the race. Have Alistar TP in, come in behind Orianna, get the knock up, have Yasuo going for the kill. Alistar tanks the tower with his ultimate. It's really an easy free kill for TSM. And they just need to continue to do this. For every time Yasuo's ult is up, have Lee Sin make a gank, have Alistar make a gank, go control a neutral objective, go for red or blue buff, and be prepared for this synergy. There's huge skirmish fight potential right from level 6 up to a level 11. It's not going to be until around level 12, 13, where armor items come into play, that things will start to fall off. If TSM have a lead at this point, they can just keep snowballing it and roll with it. They take this mid-game power spike, the synergy with Yasuo, and they turn it into jungle control with buffs, turn it into dragon control. TSM are really going to want to avoid the turret pushes, though, because SK does have good turret defense and disengage. If TSM try and go in with Alistar, you can get the slow from Sona and just back off to the turret, heal up, get protection from Orianna. Mundo runs in front of Alistar to block. If they go in at the turret with Yasuo, you have Sona for this the crescendo. Orianna can follow it up with her shockwave. There's plenty of ability for SK to defend and disrupt TSM if they try and dive at a turret. So this should be SK's focus, is playing turret defense and making sure that they stay away from small skirmishes, the 2v2s, the 3v3s, the dragon objectives, places where they're vulnerable and open and aren't able to provide a good disengage for themselves. If SK are able to do this, they can draw it out, and they'll find the win. TSM, as long as they avoid these 5v5 turret pushes and just stick to their lanes, keep the lane phase going, always move to fight for every jungle objective, because that's where they're going to be strongest, is at level 6. Lee Sin, Alistar, Yasuo have much better control than Kha'Zix, Orianna, Mundo, and they need to take advantage of it. They can use that to control red buff, to control race, control blue buff, and just keep Orianna down that way as well. And here we see comes one of the synergy. Alistar just walks from top lane, gets on top of Orianna, free ultimate. There's nothing Orianna can do about that except have massive wards, and that is something that SK need to do. The whole focus of SK's team should be stopping Yasuo in this composition. They needed more wards. They needed Orianna really needs lots of wards in this. She has to watch both her flanks. She has to watch the river routes as well. She's really vulnerable and needs to be the one having complete focus. What SK should have been doing from the very start, she should have been being defensive. She should have been having lots of wards out. She needed to be the focus for SK, because Yasuo is the one to carry this game. if TSM are able to carry this with Yasuo through the mid game, Tristana provides extra power in the late game with Yasuo. We all know Yasuo is hyper carry. Tristana is a hyper carry as well. TSM can sort of overcome the disadvantage of being an all AD team if they can get far enough ahead through the mid game. So those are the overall team strategies, the win conditions, how they should be playing them out from the start. We'll get into what changes later on. For now, I want to talk about Alistar versus Mundo. This is a top lane matchup you probably rarely see. Mundo is actually extremely strong against Alistar. He has superior sustain damage. He doesn't have to fear being killed by Alistar because Alistar is all about his burst damage and then control, but he doesn't do enough burst to kill Mundo through his tankiness, and he has no real sustained damage, so Alistar just heals up with his passive regen and survives. Alistar, known as a lane bully, can do absolutely nothing to Mundo in this situation. Whenever Alistar goes in for the headbutt combo, for the pulverize, Mundo just hits Cleaver, follows up with Burning Agony and his AD buff, and does more sustained damage to Alistar as he tries to back off from his harassment. This time when we do see that pink ward, it does catch Lee Sin. There still is no wards to catch somebody coming around the long way in the top jungle. Orianna is still very vulnerable to this. So in the top lane, Mundo has the advantage. It's very easy. SK just need to leave him alone, let him farm, wait till he gets into his double armor items, and GG. In the mid lane matchup, that's a little bit tougher. I'm going to get to that one last because that's the most important one. So we'll move on to the bottom lane matchup. I'm a little disappointed in Candy Panda and N-Rated. I feel they should have made a much stronger showing in this bottom lane, especially because Lucian really bullies Tristana super duper hard. He is the premier lane bully, and Tristana is very weak early on. Lucian should be able to dominate this matchup, especially with Sona. Sona is very strong as well in the poke and the engage. Getting that power cord off the Hymn of Valor, getting the double Valor procs on Lucian and herself, you can chunk out Tristana at level 1, take out half her health right away, and TSM can't respond with Nami Trist. Sure, Nami will then start to heal up as well, but Sona has the same thing. She has the same ability to heal, to sustain through. So getting that first chunk of damage right away really puts TSM on the back foot. And then they can keep them on the back foot from there. Lucian can always go in for the piercing lights and double shot passive on Tristana, while Sona can always be looking to hit those Hymn of Valor Qs. It does lots of damage, and she should really be focusing on it. Unfortunately, it does seem that Sona is more worried about keeping up the healing, and I don't like that. She should really be more of a poke abusing champion. She should be the one providing the damage, going in for the harassment. One of the big things for the bot lane too for Lucian Sona is they need to really bully from level 1 so that they can keep up the lane advantage on the position. Sona wants the bushes under control. If they can take the second lane bush, it's really strong for them because they deny a lot of potential for Nami to respond to what Sona does. If Sona controls the bottom lane, the second bush, the one closest to TSM, then she can walk out, get the poke, and then walk back in. Nami doesn't know exactly where she is or when she's going to go in for that harass. You give Sona control of the lane that way. It gives her the safer harass. TSM are doing it right, though. They're hard pushing this lane. They really should be. By hard pushing this lane, they deny Sona a lot of her ability to control. Makes her have to play more back instead of being up front to deal out that harass damage against Tristana. And that's what's putting SK's duo on the back foot, is the fact that TSM are hard pushing this lane. They should not have been able to. They should have been stopped from level 1. And it should have been SK hard pushing the lane. However, that's not the case. and that's why we see Tristana and Nami going even, or even going positive in this match. So we do see TSM is in the lead. They've kind of slowed down, but now they've hit the level 11 mark, and here's where they're going to have their biggest strength, honestly. They have full potential now to completely deny the jungle to SK, and they have been. They've taken blue buffs, not this third one, but the second one. They've taken several red buffs. They're keeping Gilius down. They're controlling the top jungle. They're making sure that they're looking for these small skirmishes that they need to do. Here, once again, we see one of the big problems that Lucians do early on in the Worlds is they use their dash before Nami uses her CC. Lucian doesn't need to use his dash. He could just walk up to Tristana, get the piercing lights, move forward. She was stunned by Crescendo. There was no reason for Lucian to do that dash except to get closer. If he hadn't have used his dash, he could have dashed away from Nami's ultimate, then flashed away from her bubble, or vice versa, flashed over the ultimate, dashed away from the bubble, chased Tristana, and gotten the kill. There was the opportunity there if he had just held onto his dash, but because he left his he used his dash early, Nami gets the free ultimate leads into a bubble, Tristana gets away. It's a big thing for any Lucian players out there to remember when you're fighting against a lane opponent with CC, always save your dash to stop the CC, or rather to dodge the CC. So as we're moving into this next part, we see Mundo's getting really strong. He's got his first armor item. This is key. SK really only need to wait another 5 minutes, maybe 8 minutes, so that he can get his second armor item, and they'll be able to start coming back into this game. Orianna is fairly denied, but it's okay. She can support Mundo with her ultimate, with Protect. She can play this match from behind. So as long as they wait, they don't make any real big mistakes right now, Mundo's going to get to the point where he's humongous. So I'm going to go talk about the mid lane matchup in a second. I'm just going to keep talking about the win conditions. We see that TSM are doing things well. They're still controlling. You see Lee Sin's all throughout the top jungle. Yasuo's putting on all kinds of pressure on Orianna. He's got a 40 CS lead. He's making sure that he took that early advantage and is rolling with it. I really like how he picked up an early Vamp Scepter. He got it, I think, at the same time he picked up his Zeal. This allows him to take the minor damage that Orianna is putting onto him now and continue his pressure. He can always push the creep wave into her tower because even if she gets off a couple hits, it's incidental, and he gets he heals back. He doesn't need to save that money for the earlier static Shiv, simply because he is already being the huge bully. And here we see Orianna, she just gets caught, she gets a little too close to the creep line. Yasuo gets off his ultimate, and Lee Sin is there to follow up. If Lee Sin hadn't been there, Orianna could have gotten away, but it was well timed, or just lucky for TSM on the timing, you could say. Whichever one works. Alright, here's the problem. Here's where the game really falls out. Lucian should have kept chasing, should have made sure he got that kill. There was no reason for him to back off after that double shot. He assumed it was going to kill, but he should have just kept chasing. There was no reason not to. If he had kept chasing and that double shot had killed Tristana, then he could have just chased after Nami and gone for the second kill. If he had followed up, killed Tristana, chased Nami after that, this whole situation where TSM just got 4 kills would not have happened. Tristana would have been dead, Nami would have been being chased by Lucian. It would have detoured TSM from turning around and making that move. Mundo teleporting in was also really bad. Sona had like 50 HP. She should have been considered a dead target already. Lucian was out of position, so Mundo TPing in, he essentially TP'd in to a 1v4. And here we'll watch this again. Here's the point. He goes in, last double shot, he backs off. He should have chased. If he had chased, he could have got that final hit, could have chased after Nami. And then this wouldn't have happened. Lee Sin would have showed up. He would have been okay. I'm by myself. Maybe they still would have chased, but at least SK would have gotten 2 kills and potentially deterred this. Deterred this. Sorry. Mundo TP's in. He's essentially going into what he thinks is a 3v4 turns into a 3v5, but he should have realized that it was really a 1.5v4 because Sona was 1 hit away. Lucian had almost no mana and was low. He was just TPing into death, and Alistar's super strong at dives. He just pops on his ultimate and the turret is negated. At this point, the game is now entirely in TSM's hands, even more so than it was before. Yasuo is super strong. He got kills there. He got an assist. He's running a Bloodthirster. What this Bloodthirster means for him, while we normally see Infinity Edges out of Yasuo, this Bloodthirster means he can fight Mundo. Mundo doesn't have the damage to burn through the Bloodthirster of Yasuo. Here we see it. Yasuo just goes straight on to Mundo. He doesn't care, because Mundo can't outdamage him. So this is a real problem for SK, and this is a great pickup by Yasuo to recognize the one person on SK's team who is going to give him real trouble. Everyone else, he's so far ahead, he can kill. He knows he can kill Orianna, he knows he can kill Kha'Zix, and he can properly assume that he can kill Lucian if he can get into him. So there's no reason for Yasuo to pick up an Infinity Edge, whereas the Bloodthirster provides him so much strength against Mundo. At this point, as I said, TSM's in full control. Mundo is not at the point that he needs to be, or rather, Mundo is actually where he should be, but Yasuo and Tristana are so far ahead because of those kills bottom, because of the dragon and the turrets, that it doesn't matter that Mundo's doing well. They are too far ahead. By the time Mundo gets his second armor item, they're going to be closing in on their last Whisperers, and whereas at this point, it really should be Mundo with his third armor item when they get last Whisper. We also do see Kha'Zix, of course. We know Gilius is being a sub. He thinks he can get Tristana, but it's not the case. Really should have recognized this, but he's not had the experience he needs. Anyways, I'm going to talk about the mid lane matchup, as this is the most important and the real big reason why SK end up losing this match. Orianna vs Yasuo is a very tense matchup. It requires a lot more work from Orianna's side to stay safe and to win the lane, and if she falls behind, she really ends up falling behind. As seen in this game, she got quite obliterated. Yasuo, however, has an easier time. He just needs to get what farm he can, make sure he doesn't take enough harass, and look for opportunities to get next to Orianna and pump out his damage. The key for Orianna in this matchup is her ball movement and her creep wave manipulation. She has to be very careful about her spacing with the creeps, because Yasuo can do 2, potentially even 3 dashes to get close to her. Go through the melee creep, go through the ranged creep, get next to Orianna. It's very imperative that she's watching out for this, that she's doing everything she can to make sure that the creep lines stay flat and don't stagger. And by stagger, I mean where one melee creep sneaks into the back line, and so it gives Yasuo the opportunity for 3 or 4 dashes to cover the distance. She needs to be very aware of how much distance Yasuo can cover with those dashes, because that's going to be completely essential for her safety. Her goal in this match is not to win, it's just to live. She does have the ability to win though, and we'll see this in another TSM game when the roles reversed and Bergerson, I can't say that right, sorry guys, where TSM's mid laner is playing Orianna against a Yasuo. The key is in your ball placement. You really want to keep the ball close to you, or even on top of you at all times. Use auto attacks to harass Yasuo. Whenever you see him dash towards you, you want to use your protect and dissonance so that you can run away while he's in the slow reducing the amount of Q hits you take. It's really important for you to be able to quickly react with your ball, and anytime you throw it out, you should be staying close. The other option is to do extreme long-range ball farming and only rely on your command attack and dissonance to get creep kills while you stay behind in your safety. You're going to lose out on CS that way, you won't win the lane, but it does keep you from feeding Yasuo and is the safe, less tricky play. However, if you really want to fight, get your auto attacks in, be prepared to do quick protects when he jumps into you, use dissonance to both slow him and speed up yourself, and then throw the attack out as you're running to do proper trade damage. You need to minimize Yasuo's ability to reach you, as well as minimize the amount of time he can stick on you, and this is extremely important on Orianna. It's also important for Orianna to make sure she stays extra safe when he has his knockup up, as that's Yasuo's biggest damaging potential, and that's when you really want to pay attention to his death's pass through creeps. Having said that, I know the video is done, but if you go back and look, Orianna also made a really bad choice of items. She went Chalice against a team that had no AP, and there's really no point to this. If you want your mana, you should pick up Tear of the Goddess. This allows you to build into Seraph's Embrace, which provides defensive stats, as well as having higher AP values. You could also go Seeker's Arm Guard first, Morellonomicon. Aside from that, you can also do triple Dorans, or even Doran's Haunting Guise. It gives you some AP, it gives you some regen, and it gives you some survivability. And you need survivability against AD mids. You cannot not buy some sort of survivability early. Going Chalice is bad. It's like a waste of about 400 gold, and there's much better options for that. You can even go Rod of Ages first just to get some early HP as well. One of my favorite things to do is to swap out your blue runes for CDR runes. Potentially even grab CDR runes on your Quints. That way you don't have to build Morellonomicon, you don't have to build Athene's Unholy Grail. You can go straight into Seeker's Arm Guard and then pick up a Tear of the Goddess for your mana issues. And then by the time you hit level 11, level 13, 14, that area, you have your CDR you need. You're going to scale harder too because you have more AP than you pick up on Athene's, as well as not wasting out on the magic resist cost. So that's a big takeaway from the middle lane. Big reason why SK lost is Orianna lost the matchup to Yasuo pretty hard. She was not protected by Kha'Zix. They didn't have enough wards. Yasuo got out of hand, and he just carried. He got to the point where Mundo was too far behind to even come close to stopping him. If SK had just delayed longer, if they had played the bottom lane better, if they had had more coverage over mid, they could have turned this game. They just needed to survive in this game. They didn't need to win the lanes. They didn't need to come out ahead. They needed to just go even or even a little bit behind and just wait for those armor items to come in. Randuin's Omen defensive item on everybody in the late game would have been huge, as well as the fact that Mundo, once he got that Thornmail, would have been an absolute terror. That's just what the takeaway from this game is. Just remember, look at your team compositions, look at your win conditions, and play to them. SK just needed to play defensive, they needed to do turret defense, and they needed to scale up into the armor against the all-AD team. However, they did not. They got a little overzealous, wanting more with Orianna in the middle, instead of respecting the Yasuo and the Lee Sin damage. And then in the bot lane, where Lucian did not chase into Tristana, really ended the game for SK. That 4 kills and then another kill onto Kha'Zix and getting caught in the river to drag it in the turret. It was a huge, massive gold spike, and it made SK lose the advantage they had in Mundo. Anyways, that's all for this match. I hope it was entertaining or at least informative. Actually, I hope it was informative, and if not, at least entertaining. The notes for this match can be found below in the video notes. There's a link to my blog, to the portal page for the 2014 Worlds Championships, has all my notes and all the videos that I have up. Please take a look, leave me a comment. Anything, I'd very much appreciate it. And once again, I'm Keith, aka LoLByTheNumbers, and thank you for watching.